Gold-minded records, they're not your friends.
Welcome to Horror Headquarters, a weekly horror podcast. I'm your host, Klive Kraven, with my lovely co-host,
Naya Banks.
We are here to bring you the best in all things horror. News, reviews, updates, interactive polls, discussions, interviews, and more. Stay tuned and stick around as we take on the horror genre. From the rotting graves of zombies to the blood-soaked fangs of vampires. From the claws of the werewolf to the vision of the apparition. Prepare for the slaughter orders. This is Horror Headquarters. We're just dying to talk horror. That is right, and we are back with episode 6 of Horror Headquarters. This is the Hostel Trilogy special. I am your host, Klive Kraven, with my lovely co-host.
It's Naya, guys.
That's right, we are back, and we have the lovely Hostel Trilogy, as I said before, to discuss tonight. This is primarily an Eli Roth trilogy, and some help in there from Mr. Spiegel on the third film. Before we get into the Hostel Trilogy, though, we also have a lot of bone-breaking news. Of course, we do have the Vital Organs discussion around the Hostel Trilogy. We also have the Netflix Best Picks coming your way. 2 classic slashers from the 90s for the Pick Your Poison. A beautiful list of films in the body count reviews. And a very special treat coming your way as one of those films from an independent filmmaker. And also, of course, your poll of the week. We have the results from last week, and this week we have a great question for you. And as usual, the final chapter wrap-up. So there is a lot going on tonight. Don't go nowhere. Go get them Doritos, them nachos, and all them thangs and thongs you need. Thangs and thongs.
Don't do that.
Get her thong.
Don't
Get her thong. Yeah, go get what you need, though, and hurry back. We're going to be diving into the show in just a moment.
Woo!
This is Klive Kraven and
Naya Banks,
reporting live from Horror Headquarters. Our news department is making a killing to bring you the latest
Bone-breaking news.
We are back with another segment of bone-breaking news, and this week we have some really, really cool shit to talk about. So, first thing on the list that I'm very pumped up about is Quentin Tarantino's new flick, which is basically a Charles Manson movie. We have a release date, people.
Woo.
So, August 9th, 2019. I know that's a while away. Which also marks the 50th anniversary of the Manson murders.
Oh.
Now, I think this is really good timing on the advertising of this, too. Manson just recently passed away.
Yeah.
Charles Manson passed away. So, this is going to be a hot plate for films and things of that nature, I'm sure. With his death coming and, the opportunity to make a film about it, they will be doing a lot of films about his life. So, I do think that Tarantino doing this is going to be dope. I am looking forward to this. This is something that has caught my attention for a while now. I've heard it mentioned a few times over the last few months, so I am definitely interested in checking this one out. And you know us, we will be reporting more as we know more on this film as it gets closer to release. August 9th, 2019 is a long ways away, but we are looking forward to that. Quentin Tarantino's new Charles Manson movie.
You heard it. So, Stranger Things Season 3 is officially announced, people. Woo!
Okay, so I don't think we have a date yet on this one. But Season 3 of Stranger Things. Now, I loved the first season, and we're halfway through the second season, and things are heating up.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, things are heating up, and we're really enjoying Stranger Things. It's a great, great throwback to the 80s, and what a wonderful nostalgia that it has. It's a really cool TV show, and it really puts off that 80s vibe 100% and really sets you in that time. I just love the synth music and the atmosphere and the references, and the acting is solid. It's cool to see Winona Ryder in something again. You know what I mean? I've been a fan of her since back in the Beetlejuice days, so it's cool to see her back in the spotlight again. Definitely something, enjoyable, and I am looking forward to this. So any fans out there of Stranger Things, which I know there's a boatload of you guys, and I am one of them, and so are you. So we are looking forward to Season 3 of Stranger Things. That is going to be dope. Make sure you check that out. Netflix will be carrying that as they did the first 2 seasons, I'm sure. So it is a Netflix show. So make sure you check it out when it drops. We will have more information on that one as it gets closer.
Do it.
So moving right along, we have Friday the 13th Blu-ray collection. Another one.
And another one.
So this is scheduled for release on February 13th, 2018, which happens to be my birthday. No bullshit. So this is pretty crazy. And you know what? It's on my 30th birthday.
That's fine.
Yeah, so 30th birthday, Friday the 13th, new Blu-ray collection. So if you want to get me a gift out there, friends, listeners, fans, wink, wink, cop me that Blu-ray set. I'm not going to front, I do have the Blu-ray set, and I've got it signed by a bunch of heads, and I love it. But we were looking at some of the specs and the stats because we were curious. So we looked into it, and there's some really cool added features in there that we saw that were definitely interesting and things that I would have personally liked to see. So I'm looking forward to that one. So make sure you mark your calendars. February 13th, 2018. That Friday the 13th Blu-ray collection is coming at you, machete style to the fucking throat.
Woo. New Eli Roth film, Haunt, cast announced. It includes Damien Maffei?
Damien Maffei.
Okay.
We'll say Maffei. That looks legit. Maffei. Sorry, Daniel Maffei. Damien Maffei. God, I'm butchering the fuck out of this guy.
Katie Stevens, Lauren Alyssa McLean, who I believe is like the little pop star sister, China Anne McLean. Like the McLean sisters. She might be one of those sisters. I think.
Am not familiar with
not
that
sure,
at all,
but
so
whatever.
that's dope.
And Andrew Caldwell. Or Cadwell.
Caldwell. That big Caldwell. So, yeah, I'm interested in this. We were talking about Eli Roth, and I kind of turned you on to him with the Hostel films. So this is kind of cool tie-in to the show, and I didn't even think of that, really. But a cool tie-in to the show, this being a Hostel Trilogy show, to Eli Roth, that he does have a new film being announced, and it is called Haunt, which it sounds like it's based on Halloween from what we read. And it has a very interesting premise, so I am looking forward to that one. I am an Eli Roth fan. I know a lot of people shit on him, but I like Eli Roth, and I like his films. I was a fan of Green Inferno.
From what I've seen, he's a pretty fantastic dude, man.
He's a good director.
Yeah.
He is a good director. So I do like the Hostel films, and I liked Green Inferno, and I heard he has another Green Inferno film in the works, so I hope that happens. But that about wraps up our bone-breaking news for this week. We hope you guys learned something new. We are going to go ahead and keep it moving into the main part of the show. So make sure you take that bathroom break and drop that big dirty deucer.
Please, let's not do that again.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, it's kind of become a ritual.
No, it's
I
not.
offer the patrons...
You're making everybody uncomfortable.
No, I'm offering the patrons an opportunity to drop their shits, to get their fucking drinks and their food in a, manner of relegated time.
I'm pretty sure you make everyone uncomfortable.
I'm probably doing that. But if I am doing that, I'm doing my job. I feel it's my job to kind of make things awkward
I'm so sorry,
for people.
So
I know.
sorry.
It is a travesty. Get what you need. Get your drinks. Get that food. Get that shit break in.
Jeez.
Come right back. We're going to be back in just a moment.
And now, our headquarters presents your feature presentation, Vital Organs Discussion.
We are back, and this is your Vital Organs Discussion. So, we have 3 films that we're going to be talking about tonight. That is obviously Hostel from 2005, directed by Eli Roth. Hostel Part 2 from 2007, also directed by Eli Roth. And Hostel Part 3 from 2011, directed by Scott Spiegel.
Mr. Spiegel.
Mr. Spiegel.
Oh, jeez.
Steven Spiegel and Steven Seagal and Steven Spielberg in a 3-way death match. Oh, shit. So, we're going to go ahead and talk about these 3 films. Before we get into it, though, we have some notes about the franchise as a whole. And we're going to go ahead and talk about that before we get into the individual films and talk on our thoughts and the facts and trivia that we have to go along with those. Woo. So, to get into things, this film's release was accompanied by strong complaints from Slovakia and the Czech Republic. Slovak and Czech officials were both disgusted and outraged by the film's portrayal of their countries as underdeveloped, poor, and uncultured lands suffering from high criminality, war, and prostitution. Fearing it would damage the good reputation of Slovakia, make foreigners feel it was a dangerous place to be, the tourist board of Slovakia invited Roth on an all-expenses-paid trip to their country so he could see it is not made up of rundown factories, ghettos, and kids who kill for bubblegum. Thomas Galbavy, that's a hard one to get out. Thomas Galbavy, I believe, a Slovak member of parliament from the Slovak Democratic and Christian Union, Democratic Party, commented, "I am offended by this film. I think that all Slovaks should feel offended." So, yeah, obviously, and honestly, I could totally see why the people of Slovakia were a little upset of Mr. Roth's portrayal of their lands and their people of being this fucking dirty, whore-ridden, fucking criminal-ridden bad land. I mean, between the kids and the prostitution and the drugs and the murders, I get it. I totally get it, because everything in that movie is a fucking shown in a negative light for the most part. So, they make, Slovakia and Czech Republic, that area, look very shady and seedy. Although I'm sure, there is spots over there like that. I mean, every spot has, in Maryland, we have Baltimore and D.C., which has a ton of shade. So, everywhere you live, anywhere you're at, there's going to be spots that are seedy and shady. So I think that goes without saying, but I could see why people would be outraged and upset by that. And it does make sense. So I totally get that one there.
Yeah. Defending himself, Roth said that the film was not meant to be offensive, arguing Americans do not even know that this country even exists. My film is not a geographical work, but aims to show Americans' ignorance of the world around them. Roth has repeatedly argued that despite the many films in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, people still travel to Texas. Well, obviously.
Yeah, so it's basically saying that just because an area is shown in a negative way or in a rough fashion doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to draw people away from it.
Yeah.
As pointed out with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, obviously Texas is in a fucking abandoned state. You know what I mean? There's tons of people that live there, and there's tons of big thriving towns. It just so happens that there's shit there. I mean, we live in Maryland, and there's Burkittsville with the Blair Witch. So it's, it's every state has its own little, horror areas. So I think this is no different. I think that's why people kind of just, didn't really make as big as a stir about it in the end, and kind of respected and, even made jokes about him doing this. You know what I mean? About him. He actually, I believe, wrote a letter begging for a pardon, kind of as a joke to the Prime Minister of Iceland to try to, lighten the mood, I guess, on things. So, very cool fact indeed. So this is really cool. The Bubblegum Gang were real street kids that Roth approached to be in the movie. Despite the saying, never work with children and animals, the street kids were much more reliable than the actor playing the Bratislavan cab driver, who was so drunk on set that he had to be replaced.
Dang,
homie.
Gina.
So, dang, Gina. So, this is really cool fact. So, basically, those little kids that were total badasses and little hooligans.
I'll pluck them in the back of the ear, like...
Lobed them. But these little hooligan kids were total bastards in the movie, but apparently they were more reliable and on the set in real life than this Bratislavian cab driver that was getting hammered drunk on the set and fucking passing out before they could actually do anything. So I guess it's good that they got rid of that fucking guy and replaced him, because I mean, whatever.
Who wants,
he looked like Nico Bellic. The dude looks like Nico Bellic, who ironically is also a European. It's the guy from GTA 4. Nico Bellic.
Okay.
Nico, my cousin.
Oh, gosh.
Roman.
I am not. Okay, moving on. So, Hostel premiered at the Iceland Film Festival in 2005. While there, Roth and Tarantino took part in a special ceremony where they acquired Viking names. You can now call them Eli Sheldonson. Okay. And Quentin
Canesian.
If you're a Viking, which we are not, so we will not be calling them that ever.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Eli Sheldonson and Quentin Canesian. That sounds pretty wild.
Canesian.
Sounds like a fucking alien species.
He's half man, half Canesian.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I'm not even sure.
Okay.
So you may have never noticed that one of the posters used for Hostel is a direct imitation of the iconic poster for the 1980 video nasty Maniac. Which is one of my favorite slashers, and I turned you on to it recently. So I'm curious what Maniac poster they're referring to, because there is a couple different renditions of the OG Maniac poster. Or the OG version of the movie. There was a few different designs and posters, so I'm not sure which one this is in reference to. I know that Gutterballs, the film, directly references the artwork of Maniac and having a very similar cover, but I'm not sure which one they're referring to with this. However, regardless, I am excited to go ahead and continue on and get into the facts about Hostel 1, the original from 2005, directed by the man himself, Eli Roth.
Boom.
So the first thing that we have here is the interior of the slaughterhouse was filmed at a functioning mental hospital in Prague, built in 1910, in a wing that had been closed for over 50 years. Building 10, where many of the scenes were filmed, was where the craziest patients were taken. The building was so creepy that Eli Roth had a string quartet playing classical music to make it feel cozier while shooting. Wow.
I would have been creeped out if we were in an asylum as well. Like,
yeah, I totally get it. I mean, if you're, filming in an asylum, that is definitely a wild spot to do. And I've been in, haunted spots and filmed and just been in haunted spots in general. And it is a very eerie, weird fucking feeling.
Yeah.
And you do get the cold spots and the chills and just hear unexpected things. And a lot of that type of stuff happens when you're in places like that. It's not makeup or, make-believe or fake. That's like real deal shit. So
yeah.
It is really cool to hear stories like that and to see that, that's how Roth decided to deal with it, is having the fucking big band music playing in the background to kind of ease things on and settle up for him.
Yeah. So they stay in room 237. This is a reference to The Shining from 1980.
Yeah, now anybody that's familiar with The Shining knows that 237 is very synonymous with the film, and also it's very iconic in the sense that there's even a documentary called Room 237 where they explore, weird ideas and concepts that are found in the movie The Shining by Kubrick. So very cool little reference there. I always love and appreciate homages and homages and nods to horror films, especially classics like The Shining or any other. So it's always cool to see that. And Roth, obviously is a huge horrorhead that pays homage to a lot of these films, as we mentioned before with the Maniac reference and the poster art and things of that nature. So just another really cool little tidbit of information of having a reference in there to The Shining. Very cool.
Yeah.
So Eli Roth put nearly every single crew member in the film, including production accountant Mark Bakunas, who appears on a poster in the background of 3 different scenes for his fictional rock band, Bakunas and the Essential Elements. The other members of the band on the poster are producers Mike Fleece and Chris Briggs, co-producer Daniel Frisch, production and costume designer Franco Giacomo Carbone, and Roth. So basically everybody appears in this film. Pretty much all the crew members, which I thought was very cool to include members of the behind the scenes into the film. Mm-hmm. What a great way to kind of immortalize them and put them in a frame for themselves forever. That's a really cool thing to do for the people that work on the film, and to give them that opportunity and that film credit. Just very, very cool. And I thought that was a pretty cool fact indeed. You know, Roth, like I said, I think he's a very cool dude, and I give him credit because he does a lot of things where he gives opportunities to people in the industry. You know what I mean? He's worked with a lot of heads, and he produces films now and backs films coming out from really good directors and things of that nature. And I love that, and I appreciate things like that. And that's what Tarantino has done for Roth. You know what I mean? So it's him continuing that chain on. And I think that is really fucking cool. And like I said, I know there's a lot of Roth haters out there. I do like him. I do enjoy his work. So, very cool fact indeed.
Takashi Miike?
Yes, Takashi Miike.
At around 54 minutes is the businessman at the warehouse.
Yeah, now I thought that was him. When we watched the movie, I noticed, like, I recognized him, but I couldn't place my finger on who exactly he was. But going back and reading through the factoids, it was cool to see that it was Takashi Miike, legendary film director, known for, I believe he did Ichi the Killer. I know he did Audition. He's done a bunch of really dope films, just a multitude of stuff. Legendary director, and just a real fucking legend. I mean, there's really nothing else to call the guy other than a legend. His body of work is massive. I mean, he has so many films that he has directed. It's insane. But Takashi Miike appears in the film in a cameo, and that to me is very fucking cool. So, after Josh, the Derek Richardson character, has his Achilles tendon sliced, much of his screaming is real. While writhing in pain, the actor accidentally pulled the chair up and brought it down on his foot, nearly splitting his toe in half.
Oh, God.
Yeah, now I can imagine how fucking painful that would be, and it's kind of cool that is his reaction in the film, because you're getting a legitimate reaction to severe pain, and you don't get that in a lot of films, because obviously when you're doing a take 50 times, you're not going to be able to react to it like that, or nobody's going to want to deal with the pain, or nobody is going to even do it once. You know what I mean? So to have somebody do something to put themselves in a situation where they're dealing with pain and you're getting a real reaction is very cool. Even though it sucks for him to have dealt with it, to get the reaction on camera is very cool that they had that realism there. So I thought that was a pretty cool fact. But damn, motherfucking toe split straight in half.
Oops.
Ouch.
It took a few hours to fully apply Jennifer Lim's burnt face / dangling eye makeup. What is it? Her eyes.
Dangle.
The makeup was so realistic that when she looked at herself in the mirror for the first time, it was applied. Yeah, whatever. She began to cry. She said that she would understand why her character would commit suicide after seeing the effects of torture done up on her.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, so it is pretty fucked up and sad that, like, I mean, people do. I mean, people value their beauty real heavy, and I could totally get that. I could see, like, if you went through something that burned off your fucking face, not wanting to live anymore. Like, I could see that. Me personally, I don't know how I would deal with it. I don't think I would want to kill myself, but I could see being very depressed and upset about it. And I mean, going through some shit over it. Like, I mean, it's tough to say what you would do in that situation, but you know, that is a very brutal scene, and I could definitely see why she says that. But man, I thought that was a very chilling kind of you know, sentiment to go with that part of the movie. So the trailers bill the movie as inspired by true events, quote unquote. Director Eli Roth says that he found a Thai website that advertised itself as a murder vacation, offering users the chance to torture and kill someone for the price of $10,000. According to the story, videos of a random person walking into a room and shooting someone in the head were posted on the internet. Roth later showed the site to Quentin Tarantino, and the two developed the idea for this film. Tarantino and Roth said later in an Icelandic talk show that they had no idea if the website was real or not.
That would have been pretty creepy to get a video like that, like, posted on the internet, like.
Yeah, and well, I mean, things like that happen all the time. You know, bugged out things like that. But yeah, like, if there was actually a real deal fucking thing like Hostel going on and people were bidding on people and straight and paying to murder, yeah, that's pretty fucking grimy. That's pretty scary. I mean,
Yeah.
that's scary. You know what makes that scary? Because that can happen.
Yeah.
Like, monsters typically aren't scary. Like, I love horror movies and monster movies, but they're not necessarily scary to me. You know what I mean? Because you don't think it can happen. There's certain ways that monsters can come off scary, but most of the time, monsters don't necessarily come off scary. What comes off scary is shit that can really happen. Because people are the biggest fucking monster. We're the biggest, worst monster out there. You know what I
Yep.
mean? The everyday man is the worst monster. So,
Like myself, I want to travel, but like then seeing movies like this, and it's just like,
yeah.
can we not like ever do that?
Yeah, Therese does this. There's a bunch of them, Train, movies where Europe is just depicted as this fucked up place that wants to steal your
Yeah.
organs and murder you for fucking money. It's crazy. Like, there's all these films that have that similar concept in that area. Human Centipede.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of movies that are like that are just fucking crazy. Although I'm not 100% sure the first Human Centipede is supposed to take place in Europe. I believe Tom Six is from Europe. And I know Dieter Laser, the actor from the first one, I believe is European as well. But I think that film takes place in Europe. You know what I mean? It's the same kind of idea as those, where the abduction and the torture, you know what I mean? And it just puts off a bad vibe for that area. So I could see why people get apprehensive about shit like that. It makes sense, you know what I mean? But definitely fucking crazy.
The original ending in the script ended with Paxton kidnapping the Dutch businessman's daughter. Then, as they leave on a train, he covers her mouth to prevent her from screaming. It's unclear whether or not he is helping her or if he is going to hurt her. Yeah, I couldn't tell from that either, so.
Yeah, it leaves it up in the air.
Yeah. This ambiguous ending. Ambiguous? was changed for the film because test screenings thought that ending was too dark and not satisfying enough. I agree with that, actually, so. And Eli Roth then reshot the ending and made it into the final cut. Well, that one, yeah, whatever. Paxton killing the Dutch businessman. An alternate ending is on the DVD.
So, yeah, we watched both versions of this. The original and the recut version of it.
Yeah.
And both of them had their pros and cons. I do like the fact with him taking the daughter, it's more visceral and it hits a little bit harder at home, I think, because, I mean, that's his baby girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just straight abducted this fucking kid and left him alive to deal with that fucking pain. That's almost worse than being killed.
Yeah,
And then the other one, you're just getting the brutal slaying of him with the throat slit and the fucking finger cut off and all that, and him realizing who it was beforehand. Mm-hmm. So you get the gratification there. I think both of them have that pro working for him, but then the cons with the daughter one, it's kind of like, well, the daughter was innocent in it. You know what I mean? And the one with the kill, it's like, yeah, but I kind of wanted to see him get tortured and go through more than a quick death. So both of them, like I said, have their pros and cons. I did like both versions with the alternate ending as well. So, both versions for me were very cool. In the end, though, Hostel is a fucking really brutal flick, and both of those endings are fitting for that film. So, either way, it's a good call for me, but I really enjoyed that. That about wraps up the facts that we have for Hostel as a film. However, we do want to talk about this one a little bit before we get into Hostel 2. So let's talk about our thoughts on this. Hostel from 2005, directed by Eli Roth. Overall, for me, I love this one. I think it's really brutal. I thought it really changed the era of horror cinema, especially for the time. I think when it dropped in mid-2000s that it really put shock horror back in the spotlight and extreme horror and really just set the tone. Things like Saw, and films with that kind of like real brutal nature really started to powerhouse out around that time, and that's where you saw like Martyrs and Frontiers and all the French explosion in the mid 2000s. Hostel was part of that wave, even though it was an American film but set in Europe. So it kind of fit that tone. I almost feel like it was an Americanized version of one of those films. Like it kind of brought that feel into it. So Hostel for me, I really do like. I think it has a lot of great cameos and great references. I think that the music in it is very satisfying. It has these cool operatic sequences that are referenced throughout, and we use those in the intro of the show, so you can kind of get a vibe of that feel. But they use these very glum, kind of stringy, upbeat sounds, and then you also have these very, obtusely different, orchestrated kind of epic sounds where it's very stabbing and violent and loud, and a lot different from the intro music, which is more soft and harpsy and kind of like gentle music. You know what I mean? It's a lot more of a big difference between those two. So great use of music in there. I think the directing is solid. I love some of the little things that Eli Roth did it with the scene work with him, going through and seeing all the tortures happen. And they talked about another spot where they see all the porn or all the sex shops, and they kind of parallel each other. Like one time he's walking down the aisle or the alley, and he sees like all these sex acts going on, and the next time he's walking down the alley and sees all these tortures going on, and it's kind of showing the two extremes of those two things in that area. So I thought that was really cool, and I just think that Hostel is a really cool staple of the horror cinema as a whole. I think that it stands out as one of the best releases in the 2000s for this type of film, for sure. It's one of the top tiers for torture porn and extreme in general. It's going to get 2 thumbs up from me. I'm going to give this one 2 solid thumbs up and go on to say that I do enjoy it and think it's one of Roth's best films even. I do think it is a very, very solid flick, and I enjoy it highly.
Honestly, this is my first Eli Roth film in general. So when I first heard the name Hostel and I read the DVD case cover, the summary and whatnot, it is not what I expected it to be. I knew Hostel had to do with something like a hotel, but I thought it would take place in a hotel, and it's nope, surprise. So there's definitely that.
Yeah, you only get the hotel, elements in there here and there. They're you know what I mean, like the place they're staying at, and it's not even necessarily like a hotel. I don't even know if it's necessarily a hotel or like a brothel. It's kind of like a mix of both. But it's just interesting that they can take something so simple and make it so visceral. You know what I mean? It's a great way to do it. And Roth even points out that the lack of Americans' knowledge of European culture really makes it scarier, because we don't know how Europeans conduct their daily life. It's not exactly the same as we do it. There's a lot of shit that's different. It's little shit, but it would change. Like, if you went over to Europe right now, you can try to get by in a regular day, there's going to be a lot of little things that are going to be different. You know what I mean? That you're not going to be used to. Just driving on the other side of the road. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of little shit like that you're not going to be accustomed to, that everyone else is accustomed to. So there's that fear of the unknown and not knowing, where to go or what to do or whatever. You know what I mean? Or even knowing the languages. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of mystery and fear peppered in there in Hostel, and I think they did a great job of doing that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I give 2 thumbs up. So that's my rating for it.
So you enjoyed this one as well.
I did, yeah. It was exciting, actually.
What would you say is probably your favorite kill from this one?
Favorite kill?
I mean, you've got the blowtorch, you've got the Achilles slice, you've got the fucking the chainsaw when the dude saws himself.
Yeah, that one was kind of upsetting. I kind of felt bad for the dude because he didn't see it coming, and this is his job. You're not supposed to die, you're supposed to torture other people, but then at the same time it's because you torture other people, this is karma coming back on you. So and then it's
in your face.
Yeah, so
yeah, it was definitely brutal, and I think that Hostel definitely stands up still to this day. Granted, it's not that old yet; it's only about 12 years old, coming up on 13. But it is a great film. It's definitely enjoyable. Super fucking brutal. This is one for those that like the grit and the grime and the dirt. So definitely check out Hostel. It's a very, very grimy one. Definitely an enjoyable one, and probably the best one out of the entire trilogy, just being honest. So we're going to go ahead and get into the next film, though, which is going to be Hostel 2 from 2007, directed by Eli Roth. Now, this one has some really cool facts, so we're going to talk about the facts before we go ahead and get into our thoughts on this one, as we always do. You know how we get down.
Down?
Down?
Funky.
Oh yeah, Dr. Funkenstein.
Ooh.
Funkenstein. Yeah. Okay, so Hostel Part 2 from 2007, directed by Eli Roth. Once again, just like the original. This one is really cool. So, the film recouped triple its budget in its theatrical release. Together, both Hostel films cost a total of $15 million and grossed a total of $115 million theatrically worldwide, making the Hostel films one of the most profitable horror franchises, period.
Whoa, bro.
Boom, motherfucker. So I did not realize this, but it makes sense. Honestly, it does, because, you know, at this point in time, the horror genre had already made a strong comeback. The 2000s, the 90s, and the 2000s really brought the horror genre back. You know, the late 90s and 2000s, because the early 90s there kind of had a dry spell. The 80s really wrung out a lot of the last good horror films, and the early 90s kind of had a dry patch there. There was a lack of good horror films in the early 90s. So, you know, this film came at a point where a wave of fresh stuff was coming in the late 90s, early 2000s, and this was kind of the tail end of it. And, you know, 2007, when this one came out, there wasn't a ton of stuff that was really, I don't know, I wouldn't say as brutal, but there wasn't as many things that were mainstream that were as brutal. You know what I mean? I'll go as far as to say, I think that, you know, with the exceptions of the Hostel and the Saw movies, there's really not a lot of other, you know, torture porn that's really, you know, socially, or not socially, commercially as accepted and as big as those films and those franchises. Because, you know, when you really look at it, those are the ones that everyone knows. Everyone knows Hostel, everyone knows Saw. And they are the biggest, you know, ones. But I did not realize that they were grossing money like that. You know what I mean? Like, that is an exceptional amount of money to be pulling in. 115 million on 2 films. And I don't think the third one did very well. I know it was a straight-to-video one, so I don't think there was a big budget there. But, man, that is a lot of fucking money for these films to pull off. 115 million out of a 15 million budget. Wow.
Probably like making it rain, like in a hotel room, like, hey.
Yeah, shouts out to fucking Eli on that one, dog. You must have made some bank on that one, bro.
Mrs. Bathory?
Yeah.
Played by Monica
Malakova.
I don't know. Who bathes in the virgin blood, is based on a real woman. Elizabeth Bathory was the blood countess of Hungary, who struck terror throughout the region in the late 1500s and early 1600s, and is said to have killed more than 600 young female servants and peasants throughout her life. Savage.
Very savage.
The legend is that she bathed in the blood of virgins in order to retain her beauty.
Now, this is cool because I'm very, very well versed in Elizabeth Bathory, and I think it's very, very cool that they had this ode in there. I immediately noticed this and recognized this, but I did not notice that that's actually the name of the character, apparently, in the movie. I did not catch that. I never caught them using her name, but I thought that was fucking sick that they had that reference in there, because, like I said, I am a huge fan of Bathory, and I think it's dope that, you know, they fucking had a reference to a legit serial killer in there, and it did it in a very brutal way by having her signature kill kind of in the film, and I just thought that was really, really
like
grimy.
that scene, though. Like, the way they made it, like...
It's artsy. It's kind of artsy because she's almost bathing in the blood, but like painting herself with it. You know, like the way she's rubbing on herself, like she's getting she's kind of getting off on it, like sexually, but it's just a weird cult fetish kind of scene, and it's just very, very fucking strange. But I did like that, and I do think it was cool to have the reference to her in there. For the scenes in the brothel that Stuart and Todd visit, Eli Roth was keen to film at a genuine brothel in Prague and eventually decided on Big Sister, which was world famous for offering customers no charge for sex with the prostitutes, which would normally include fellatio and vaginal sex as well as kissing and licking on the women's bodies, including the breast, as long as the men were wore a condom and agreed to live internet streaming of their activities, which were viewed by paying customers. And on his solo DVD commentary, Ross suggested that Hostel fans should subscribe to the Big Sister website and watch the videos. The brothel and the website are no longer active, but several videos from the place are easily accessible online for free.
Whoa there, bro.
Whoa there, Big Rother. So, apparently you can get fucking legit video footage from this shit, which is pretty grimy. Yeah, that's pretty grimy. Now, this is like porn footage, I would assume. Like, yeah, obviously porn footage because it's brothel. It's basically brothel house footage from the place where they filmed the scenes for this film. So, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool, but apparently it is no longer in service. So, the videos you will be seeing will not be live, obviously. They were live at one point, but they will be recorded videos that are featured on the web now. So, go ahead and look for that.
Or not.
Or not.
Don't tell us about it.
Go get it. Watch it. Do it now.
Do not encourage it. Ruggero?
Ruggero Diodaro. Ruggero. You gotta say it with the accent. You know,
No.
Ruggero Diodaro.
That guy. At around 1 hour and 19 minutes, the director of the controversial 1980 film Cannibal Holocaust from 1980, obviously, I don't know why it's in there twice, has a brief cameo as a cannibal in the film.
Yeah, so this I noticed when we were watching it, and I mentioned it to you that when he popped up on the scene, I was like, "That's Ruggero," and you were like, "Who the fuck is that?" And I had to school you. I had to school you on legendary Ruggero Deodato, who directed the legendary and great Cannibal Holocaust, which I have the Italian Holocausto Cannibal poster behind me right now from the classic film, which you have not seen yet because I told you it's very extreme and brutal, and it's kind of a depressing film to watch. A lot of animals are killed in it. There's like a fucking horrible rape scene. There's brutal murders and cannibalism. Like it's a downer of a film, but it is very well done and a very dope film, and I do love it. It's just you got to be like in a mind frame to watch that shit.
God.
Like you got to mentally prepare to watch that shit. But it is a solid flick, and I was very, very pleased to see legendary Deodato appear in the film. Very, very cool. The movie continues 2 features from the original Hostel. All clients who have at least one establishing scene before they arrive at the torture factory end up being killed. And the young men and women who deliberately deliver victims to elite hunting are themselves murdered. In the former case, Todd is mauled to death by guard dogs after refusing to murder Whitney, after Stuart does kill Whitney. He is disarmed by Beth and presumably bleeds to death when she becomes a client and castrates him. Death also befell the Dutch surgeon, the German client, and the American businessman in the original. In the latter cases, Axel is decapitated by Beth in the final scene. Axel's fellow recruiters were deliberately run over by either Paxton or the thugs pursuing him, before they were killed by the Bubblegum Gang in the final part of the original.
Dun dun.
So, basically, this is just a cool little tie that happened from the original, with 2 continuing themes that they kept in the sequel. Now, I'm a huge fan and proponent of this. I do enjoy when they take something, an element of a film, and they reinstate it into a sequel, because after all, it is a follow-up film.
Yeah.
It should have elements and plot, turns and twists that relate to the original and pull you back to the original. That is the source material. So if you're pulling a sequel, I want to see something that brings me back to that.
Yeah.
I don't want a whole new story. Otherwise, you might as well call the movie something else if it's something totally different.
Yeah.
There is exceptions in those cases sometimes, but very few and far between. So with utilizing that, you want those connections. This provides those multitudes of connections. So I think that's really fucking cool. I thought that was a really cool factoid and something that I didn't even pick up on directly, but I noticed it once they pointed it out and I read about it.
When Beth is in Axel's room and is looking around, you can see Axel in a photo with Natalia and Svetlana, the two girls from the first Hostel film.
Yeah, so I didn't even necessarily notice that, but I think that's once again another great tie into the original, and what a great way to kind of bring it full circle again. And like I said, I love when they do things like this, and I think Roth did a great job of really fucking nailing that down and putting that type of little tidbit in there with having a reoccurring thing happen in this film as it happened in the original. And I do like that. I am a huge fan of that, and having things linked back to the originals and the source material. So just a nod to his original, and I definitely do love when they do things like that in a movie. So huge fan of that. That about wraps up the facts that we have for Hostel 2. Before we get into the third one, the final one, Hostel 3, we're going to talk about our thoughts on Part 2 for a little bit here. So let's talk about Part 2. This one, I believe, upped the ante on the brutality a little bit. The kills were a little bit more extensive. You had some real griminess with the abduction of the one chick. And then you also had just a really fucked up scene with her death and the Elizabeth Bathory style fucking killing. It was just very, very brutal and very savage. And the castration at the end, I mean, it's fucked up. I mean, the scene when he's drilling the one chick in her, he's got the drill by her face and he's fucking with her and he gets caught in her hair and rips her shit out and she's like sitting there fucking scalped. Like even he's like dry heaving at it, like disgusted.
He knew it wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Like he was like, oh
no!
Oh, what do I do? He's like, oh no, that's not supposed to happen. Oh shit. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it was totally brutal, and I mean, yeah, obviously he knows that he wasn't intending to hit her yet with it. I don't think. I think he was trying to scare her, and I think I believe he lost attention. You know what I mean? He lost focus on what he was doing. He was making sure
that it was still like plugged in.
Yeah, and it ends up fucking ripping out a chunk of her hair, and just that scene was so fucking brutal to me, and just really nailed it home again. You know what I mean? And just showed the brutality of these films. And I mean, that's what these films are. I think anybody that goes and sits down to watch a Hostel movie knows what they're getting into, and they come back for a second helping with this one because they want that again, and this film does deliver. I'm going to go ahead and give this one, once again, 2 thumbs up. I think this is a very cool one. I think it stands up there with the first one, equally as good. I think the first one's a little bit more innovative because it's the original, source material and the start of the story, and it's kind of the groundbreaker. But I do like this one. I do like the twists and turns with it. I do like the kills in it. You've got that creepy little fucking weirdo desk dude that I just want to chop in the throat. Can I chop that dude in his throat? I don't like it. It's his accent. It's not even like an accent. It's like it's so fucked up to say this, but he has a speech impediment that makes me want to punch him in the face. And I know that's wrong. That's like saying you want to punch somebody because they have a lisp. Like, it's fucked up, right? But like, it's very irritating. It's worse than like any other speech impediment. Like, I don't even think it's necessarily just the impediment. It's the look that he makes, plus the combination of his voice and his stupid haircut. It's those 3 things, like his haircut and his voice and his look. When he's looking at you and talking, those things together make me want to punch him.
Like, I understand, like, when you talk, you have, like, facial expressions you do when you're talking, you're, like, telling a story, but his was, like, a little excessive.
Yeah,
like,
he's just, and like, very, like, always, like, suspicious and creepy and just a weird fucking character. And he never came to fruition with any more than I thought he would either. Like, he didn't even have, like, I don't know, I thought he was going to have a more key role, and he definitely fucking didn't, but, yeah, so I give 2 thumbs up to this one. What is your thoughts on this one?
I also give it 2 thumbs up. I think I mentioned it before. I do like the Miss Bathory scene.
Yeah, Elizabeth Bathory is grimy.
Yeah. Other than that, it's like the lighting, the kills, like you said, the hair thing, that kind of like had me, because if I lost my hair, like,
It's
oh.
it's more damaging for a female for sure because
Yeah.
women value their beauty more than a man does. You know what I mean? Men don't give a fuck.
Like I cried when I first got my hair,
women
so.
value what they look like. We don't give a shit. You know what I mean? But women really hold to their heart what they look like and hold themselves in high regard. So if they lose their fucking scalp and all their hair, it's gonna fucking ruin them, not just physically but mentally. You know what I mean? Getting scalped is brutal, but the mental damage that does, you know what I mean? Like, especially in the moment, I mean, it's so much to take in at once, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's very fucking savage. So, Hostel 2 is getting 2 thumbs up from each of us. That's, a double thumbs up. Definitely a brutal one. Definitely one to check out. I did like it. I enjoyed it. I think it's a real fucking savage flick. And, I like that one. I'm going to have to say... if you haven't checked that one out by now, it's been out 10 years. What are you doing? You're late to the party.
Wake up.
Hop into the fucking pool, have a fucking pina colada.
It's almost
watch the
2018.
torture. That's right. So that about wraps up Hostel 2. We're going to go ahead and get into the last one here, which is the third one in the trilogy, and that is Hostel Part 3 from 2011, directed by Scott Spiegel.
Mr. Spiegel.
Spiegel Beagle. Now, Scott Spiegel is also involved in the other Hostels, I believe, as a producer, or maybe it's a writer. He's involved in some extent. I'm not exactly sure, but I remember seeing his name involved and attached to the other projects. Mm-hmm. Now, he helms this one with Eli Roth stepping away from the spotlight here. And I read something about Roth not wanting to come back because something about he doesn't believe in any films going over 2 per franchise, like doing more than 2 in a series. He believes once you do more than 2, it's downhill from there. Yeah. So... I get that and I respect that. So he didn't come back on the third one, but the third one was pretty solid. We're going to talk about that one and give our thoughts on that one. But before we do that, we are going to talk about these factoids that we have about Part 3. So let me get things started off here. The first film in the series, not to be directed by Eli Roth. Roth has a philosophy that no movie should go beyond 2 installments, so he most likely passed on the opportunity.
As you just said.
Yeah, so that's one of the facts that I read. Now, I wasn't sure if I actually had that one written down. Obviously, I did, as it was the first one I mentioned there. But very cool fact indeed that, he basically just doesn't want to go past 2, films at all. And that's probably why he decided to not do this.
And I get it, too, because there was a lot of movies that,
ran dry. They ran the well dry. And, he said that, they say that he most likely passed on the opportunity because of that. Now, that means that he was given the opportunity to direct the third one, which is quite interesting. And I wonder what he could have done with another installment or what he would have wanted to do if he would have. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I wonder what he would have done. I would love to ask him, what would you have done for a third movie if you would have directed it, hypothetically? You know what I mean? I am curious of that, but very cool indeed. Just, shitty that he didn't come back, but I understand why he didn't, and we got the big Spiegel.
So this is the first film in the series to not have a theatrical release.
Now, this one just didn't have the budget behind it that the first 2 did, and not having Roth behind it, it didn't pan out so well. It was kind of a bad deal.
Yeah, so
no Roth, no release. I wonder if that was I wonder if that was the fucking chant outside of the fucking...
No Roth, no release.
No Roth, no release. No Roth, no release. Was that fucking protest? Were they trying to get Roth behind the film, and that was the mantra, the motto behind it?
He was oh, well then don't have a release.
Hey, motherfuckers.
That doesn't affect me. So.
Not involved no movie. Famous. Alright, so Thanos. Oh, you're dead.
You're fucking dead.
You're fucking dead. You're fucking dead. You gotta do it right if you're gonna do it. If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it right. Oh, man. So, it's so fucking funny. So, no theatrical release for Hostel 3, unfortunately. However, it did make it to DVD, and is available. However, it is hard to find. We had a lot of trouble tracking this fucking film down to watch, but we were able to finally find it. But damn it, it was a task to find. So the internal casino shots were filmed at the Greektown Casino in Detroit, Michigan, as evident by the Greektown logo shown on the TV monitors during the casino sequences. The Detroit Greektown Casino is the only Native American owned and operated casino located in the heart of a large populated metropolis in North America.
Boom.
So that's really cool, and it makes me wonder if that is maybe something that was maybe pulled from Roth or Tarantino, because I know Tarantino does a lot of things where he really tries to tie culture into his films, and that definitely seems what Spiegel was doing here. So I wonder if that was influenced by one of those guys. But what a really cool thing to include that specific casino, and maybe that was the reasons it was chosen for, because of its rarity. But I think that is cool nonetheless, and definitely an interesting fact indeed.
There were meant to be many viral marketing tools attached to the film, including a collection of QR codes that would, if scanned, give exclusive content. You can see one at 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 26 seconds. Because of the film's reception from test audiences, the marketing campaign was dropped, and if you scan the code now, the result would just show up as top left 8.
Yeah, that's a very weird fact, but as far as what it shows up as, but very cool that there was actually a viral campaign that they were trying to do with having the codes scattered throughout ads or throughout the film. I think that's really cool. Actually, it was throughout the film, so I think that's cool that they had that. I wish they would have kind of kept that, but I can see why they got rid of it, and it makes sense. So, no big loss there. I don't really use QR codes, but I know they were popping for a while and people were using them, so kind of a letdown there that it was taken away. It would have been a cool little, tidbit of, something to have in there, but ultimately that was stripped away, so no QR codes in the film. Wah, wah, wah. So Alicia Vela Bailey, who played the Japanese cyberpunk woman, wears a latex catsuit, which looks similar to the latex catsuit that Celine from the Underworld series movies wears. She would later stunt double Kate Beckinsale in Underworld Awakening in 2012. So that's kind of cool. I mentioned before that this suit that she wears, the mask particularly, kind of reminds me of Hellboy a little bit, like some of the characters from that. And that's kind of the vibe that I got from it. But I also could see that, that definitely has the same vibe as the catsuit from Underworld. Which a catsuit is kind of universal. It's just basically a vinyl tight, skin tight suit. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so look at her wearing that cat suit. Oh, kitty cat. Kitty cat there. Look at that suit. But, yeah, very, very cool little tidbit, and that kind of, ties into another horror film with, having an Underworld, reference there, which would happen a year later with her being in the Awakening film. So, very cool indeed.
At the very end of the credits, the line, "The house always wins," is repeated.
Now, this is something I believe is said earlier in the film, and it makes reference to something they say in Vegas a lot, which this film is, partially, taking place in Vegas, or seems to be in Vegas. Obviously, they're out there to gamble. So, it's, a very interesting, cool little thing they threw in at the end of the movie, just, in the credits, just to kind of have a little throwback to the film itself, and to make fun and lighten up the mood, I guess, a little bit with a little joke there at the end of the film. So pretty cool, and I do like when they do things like that and have those little hidden scenes and Easter eggs. So that was a pretty cool one. When Carter escapes in his getaway car just seconds before the building explodes, you can see him accelerate aggressively with the sound of squealing tires, although the car is driving off on a dirt road. So when you're, hey Thomas, when you're
on a dirt road,
when the road is made of dirt, how do your tires squeal? So yeah, like basically he's on a dirt road and his tires are screeching like he's on concrete. So anybody that has ever drove a car in their fucking life for 2 miles knows that
A smart driver. A smart driver.
Smart driver would know that, you know, your tires screeching on concrete is what makes the noise, not on dirt. Dirt makes a totally different noise, and it is not as screeching. Yeah, gravel is different, and even gravel, though, is not going to be the same as asphalt or blacktop. So, a little bit different there, but yeah, that was definitely a pretty obvious fuck up and oversight on their part.
When Justin receives the text and photo of Nikki from Mike upon the returning to the club, he replies, however, the to field reads Nikki.
So basically, he's sending it back to Nikki, but he's getting a photo of Nikki from Mike, not from Nikki. So how the fuck are you going to send it to the person that didn't send you? So basically, you're replying back to somebody that didn't send you the text.
I've done that. No, like you've
I'm sure it's happened, but like for the sake of the continuity of the movie, it was definitely an oversight that they missed. Oh no! And something that they, you know, happened to fuck up. But we've talked about this before. Continuity issues are always happening, so that's just how it goes. When the 3 male leads are apprehended inside Nikki's trailer looking for their friend Mike, Kendra smacks Connor across the face with the gun she is holding. In the ensuing scenes, blood is seen seeping from Connor's nose. The scene changes, and then it's gone. Scene changes again, and the blood has reappeared again.
Oh, we got disappearing and reappearing blood up in this bit? Oh, no.
Oh, no! So, once again, another continuity issue,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this before on the show multiple times. Continuity issues happen all the time in movies. You just don't notice them, but we do draw attention to them because if you are a horror fan, it's something you might want to check out. It's something you might want to go back and look at. It gives you another reason to revisit a horror movie and check for things of that nature. So, very cool indeed.
When the group is shown inside the casino during the opening scenes, we see external shots of Las Vegas, but inside shots were clearly filmed at the Greektown Casino in Detroit, as evident by the multiple video screens mounted on the walls displaying the Greektown Casino logo and Detroit underneath the logo. I didn't even notice that. I laughed. I was like, are you serious right now?
Again! Yeah, where are all these little logos at? The Detroit signs, yeah. Oh no! So, yeah, I guess, you know, they wanted to, you know, make this seem like it was filmed in Vegas, which, I assume there is some external shots from Vegas. Obviously, they had to have that to make it look like that. But where they filmed at in the casino was in Detroit. So anybody that's familiar with Greektown or Detroit or Michigan, for that matter, is going to be familiar with that casino or would likely be familiar with that casino. So kind of gets rid of that continuity a little bit there. But still just a very cool fact. And that about wraps up the facts, though, that we have for you with Hostel 3. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about this film. Our thoughts on this one before we give up our wrap-up of the trilogy.
Oh, let me start.
Okay, so go ahead. What's your thoughts on part 3?
This one was amazing. Like, I wouldn't say it's better than the first one, but there was definitely the twist and turn, like, at the end, and it was just like, oh, no.
Yeah,
Like,
the
what
twist
happened?
the twist was really
Yeah.
good. I give you credit.
I don't
want to,
like, give anything away, but it mind fucking blown.
Yeah, the twist is really solid on it. And I really did like the kills in it. They were definitely brutal. It's a different brand as far as the feel of it. It's a little bit more, I don't know, I want to say more modernized, because even Hostel doesn't necessarily feel like it's even set in the year it's in. It almost kind of feels like it could be a little bit of an older film. But the technology is more evident in 3, and the torture techniques are a little bit more modernized. It's very savage, though, and I do like the twist on it. I'm going to go ahead and give part 3 a solid thumb up. I'm not going to give this one 2 thumbs up. I do think it is enjoyable. I don't think it's great. I think the first 2 stand a little bit stronger. But it is a good entry, and I did enjoy it. Some people will hate on it. I thought it was cool. It definitely strays away from the original 2 as far as quality and as far as direction even a little bit. But it is a solid entry into the franchise, and I did enjoy the twist. The ending was fucking super brutal. There's a few good twists in there, actually. And I think between the face skinning and the cockroaches, I just think there's a lot of brutality in there. So what are your votes on this one? You thumbs up and you thumbs down and you feeling it, you're not feeling it.
Are you feeling it?
I'm feeling it. I'm giving it that thumbs up. I'm feeling it.
No. I did give it a thumbs up as well. Like I said, it's not as well as the first one, but I did like the ending twist. Yeah. A lot of the other twists, it's like I kind of saw coming, but then at the same time, when like you expect it, but it still surprises you. So. Yeah,
I thought it was a cool idea with what they decided to do with that and how they did it, because it's something that hasn't been done. It's a type of twist that hadn't been done previously.
Yeah.
And it stood out for that, and I did appreciate it for that. So, Hostel 3 is a pretty cool one. We did like this one. Like we said, it was probably the weakest out of the three for us, but we did enjoy it. It's definitely a cool entry into the franchise and definitely an enjoyable one. So that wraps up our thoughts on Hostel 3. We're going to go ahead and kind of give our overall thoughts and, discuss a little bit of the trilogy as a whole and what we thought of the franchise as a whole and as one large piece of work rather than individuals. So consistency in this franchise is pretty solid. The first two, huge continuity and consistency between the two, 100%. Because both being from Roth, you definitely get that continuity. However, it doesn't follow necessarily the same characters, but there is flashbacks and odes to those characters. The third one kind of takes on its own story and is a little bit different, but I feel that it's still a solid entry into the franchise, and I do enjoy this one. I think it's a great franchise overall. I do think they slightly lose steam as they go on. But I do think that if a fourth one came out, I would be interested. I would love to see Roth come back and Helmet. I hope they don't decide to remake it, because it seems like nowadays a lot of modern films are getting remakes really early. So I hope it's not one they decide to remake. I'd much rather see a sequel and see Eli Roth back. Perhaps have Spiegel come in to co-direct or co-produce. But I would love to see Eli Roth come back and bring us another Hostel film. I hope that happens one day. I don't think it will, to be honest with you, because he's going on record to say he doesn't believe in doing more than 2 installments, and this would put him in a fourth one and be the third installment for him in the franchise. So I doubt that'll happen, but goddamn it, a man can wish.
Yeah.
And I would love to personally see that. But the franchise is definitely a very fun one. I recommend it to anyone that's into the very brutal, gritty genre of horror. If you're into that torture porn type of shit, I enjoy these types of films. I know you enjoy these types of films as well. This is definitely something that we both enjoyed sitting down and watching. This is our first time ever seeing the Hostel Trilogy, and this is the first time that I've sat down and watched them back to back. Even though I'd seen them all previously. But it was really fun to dig into these films and check them out, and I am glad that we had a chance to do it and do a show on them. Like I said, I'd love to see another one. Not sure what the chances of that are, but the Hostel franchise definitely gets thumbs up for me. Definitely an enjoyable series overall, and very, very brutal. Definitely satisfies that urge for the gore porn type of fix. So definitely enjoyable stuff.
I haven't seen anything like it. I'm really looking forward to getting into the American Guinea Pig, though.
Yeah, and I've mentioned that to her before, that the American Guinea Pig films are very, very brutal and have that type of feel. Guinea pig films in general, American Guinea Pig, and then the original Guinea Pig films as well, which I believe there's 6 or 7 installments of those, and now there's like a trilogy of the American Guinea Pig, and they're working on another one. And big shout outs to Unearthed Films and Stephen Biro, who is the man behind some of those films, and Marcus Koch and all them other guys that do work at Unearthed. I mean, these guys are really just solid directors and writers, and they're really doing their thing, and I am just thrilled to see new, violent, brutal type of shit like that come out, and these independent studios like Unearthed are proudly bringing stuff to us that way, and I love that shit. So very dope stuff, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the franchise too, and it's like I said, it's just very dope. It's very brutal and it's just savage, and it satisfies those dark urges that you want to see something really savage. This definitely delivers it to you. So that about wraps up our Vital Organs discussion of the Hostel Trilogy. This was a franchise that we were super excited to get into, and I was excited to show it to her. I'm glad we had the opportunity to do that. I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion and chit chat on that. However, we have a lot more left of the show. We still have our body count reviews, our poll of the week, our final chapter, pick your poison, all types of good stuff. The Netflix best picks. We have all types of goodies coming your way, so don't go nowhere. This would be a great time for you to drop that big fat fucking dirty shit. You know you're gonna take it.
You make people so uncomfortable.
I know, that's the fucking charm that I have, though. That's part of my allure. Like, oh, he's such a good guy. He made me feel awkward about pooping. I don't know. And, that's what I do. I make you feel awkward, but that's good. Hopefully, I can make people feel uncomfortable.
He's the type of guy that'll hold your hand while you're taking a poop.
Why would I hold somebody's hand while they're shitting?
Because you comfort people.
That's
and
really
you
uncomfortable.
Push people
That's
to go.
I push them to push. Like, am I in there coaching them? Like, you can do it.
Okay.
Am I the Rob Schneider of the bathroom? You can do it. Go on, drop the fucking bomb. I believe it. You can do it.
Moving on.
Go get your snacks attacks. Do your bathroom, snack attack. Snack attack in the bathroom.
Don't do that.
Cheesy poos while you drop
that's
logs.
so unsanitary.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've never
anyway.
eaten while I've dumped, but I've dumped and thought about eating. In a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
But anyway, get your snacks, come back. We're going to go ahead and get into this next segment in just a moment.
Boom.
His homebrew business destroyed by competing restaurants. His Meals on Wheels truck destroyed. A man stands alone seeking retribution. He's burning with passion and burning them without compassion. 100% grade A American, fresh, tender, and pure. You look at that, meat just falls off the bone.
So, yeah, I just left Paul's house, and something's going on over there. I don't know, his apartment reeks. I don't know, just give me a call later if you can.
Coming to a menu near you. He's cooking the competition. He is
The Pitmaster.
You don't like my food? What's new for you to view? Find out this week on Netflix Best Picks.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why we just fucking verbally assaulted our fan base with yes, but that just happened.
At least we're not Lil Jon.
Yeah. Okay. What? What? Okay.
So, this week's Netflix Best Pick is a really fun one. We had a lot of fun watching this one, and this one is 2017's The Babysitter, directed by Mick motherfucking G, bitch. No, it's not literally Mick motherfucking G, bitch, but Mick G is the guy that directed this one, or MCG, whatever it is pronounced. I think it's Mick G. But very fucking cool flick. Great nod to the 80s, and what a cool premise, and super fucking savage.
The cast, on the other hand, they could have kept a formal Disney Channel character. Like, she just irritated me.
I don't know the Disney Channel shit like that, so you
I'm
know
12.
some inside. You're 12, so you got some inside information as far as the characterization goes that apparently I don't have because I'm not savvy or privy to Disney shit. So you're a little bit more savvy and up to beat with that than I am. But The Babysitter is streaming right now on Netflix. Make sure you check this one out. This one gets 2 thumbs up for me. I definitely enjoyed this one. I love the brutality in it. The storyline is cool and fun. Definitely nods to the 80s in it throughout. And very satisfying end. It definitely alludes back to the 80s, and also even gives me a little bit of a touch of Mother's Day at the end with that jump scare ending. I really did like this one. I definitely recommend it to those heads out there that are checking the cast that may have Netflix and haven't seen this one yet. The Babysitter from 2017. What'd you think about this one?
I gave it 2 thumbs up. I expected something totally different. I thought it was based on vampires or something like that, but it's kind of like a little cult type thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely a cult-oriented type of film. I would definitely go as far to say it's an occult film.
Yeah.
A satanic cult film with, slasher undertones in it just because of the way the kills go down. But there's no mystery, there's no giallo-type atmosphere to it or anything like that. But it's definitely a cool flick, and if you haven't checked this one out, we both recommend this one, and that is The Babysitter from 2017, directed by Mick Motherfucker J. Bitch. You beat me to it. I was gonna say bitch. Easy E that shit. But yeah, definitely check that one out. We're gonna go ahead and keep it rolling into our next segment, so don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after this brief moment.
Boom.
I like this one, this one, that one, this one, that or this or 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 that or I like this one better. I like that one better.
Pick your poison.
Boom.
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 So we got 2 slashers. One with a hook, one with a kitchen knife. Who do you choose? We got I Know What You Did Last Summer from 1997, directed by Jim Gillespie. Little Gillespie over there.
Gillespie.
And then we got Scream from 1996, directed by Wes Craven. So,
yeah, boy.
Slashers
from the 90s. Now, these 2 films get compared a lot because they are similar in nature, and I can see why people compare them. There is definitely a lot of comparisons to be made between the 2. They came out in a very similar time. They're both considered revival slasher films. That era, the late 90s, mid 90s, there wasn't a ton of slasher films. They kind of brought that back to the forefront and made it a mainstream thing again. And from that point on, we got hit with a slew of them the years after. So these films are credited with that kind of revival, and I can definitely see that. I do enjoy both of these films personally, and I do like both franchises that they come from. Now, when we're comparing these individually, I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think, has a story that I enjoy more, but I think that the brutality and the twist in the original Scream are better than I Know What You Did Last Summer. But I do enjoy both of these films highly. If I'm personally going to have to pick one of these 2 and a pick your poison, I'm going to go with, drum roll, Scream from 1996, directed by Wes Craven.
That's the one I would probably go with because of you have the who is it type thing going on.
Yeah, it's definitely a whodunit more so than I Know What You Did Last Summer. Although I Know What You Did Last Summer still has the mystery to it. It's not so much as a mystery as finding a face to it. So
yeah,
I think Scream kind of has that mysterious vibe a little bit better, and I think that it is the victor personally. This is one that I believe we talked about this one or did this one in the Facebook group as one of the Pick Your Poisons in there. So this is one that you listeners may be familiar with, but give us your thoughts on this one. Feel free to comment down below what your pick would be for this week's Pick Your Poison.
Do it.
But yeah, we are both rolling with Scream from 1996, directed by the legendary Wes Craven. Rest in peace to the legendary Mr. Craven. And that about wraps up our thoughts on the Pick Your Poison and our 2 flicks for this week on there. We're going to go ahead and keep it moving and getting to our next segment in just a second. We will be right back.
Woo!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bodies are starting to add up. Body count reviews.
Wow. That's right. We are back with another edition of Body Count Reviews. And this week, we have another 7 sinful films for you.
Woo-hoo.
We have some nasty trick-or-treats in this one. Puns fully intended, bitches. So, this week, we have a lot of different films, a lot of 80s classics. Starting off with this one, which is Terrorvision from 1986, directed by Ted Nicolau. Now, I recently added Ted on Facebook, so shout outs to Ted for accepting that friend request, brother.
You were.
So Terrorvision is fun. Terrorvision is a real romp. This one is basically a alien coming through your television to fuck shit up. And he's this giant gelatinous belly blob.
The blob.
The blob. And I like that. I think it's a really cool film. I think it has a fun cheesiness to it. It's definitely cheese. It's a cheese fest.
Cheese ball.
But a good cheese. It's not bad cheese. It's like high quality cheese. Like if it was in a can, it would be top shelf can.
Government.
It's like the Henny cheese. It's like the Henny of cheese. It's like cheese sauce drizzled in Henny.
Golden cheese sauce.
There you go.
Like Velveeta.
It is. So I enjoyed Terrorvision. I really like this one. I'm going to go ahead and give this one at least a thumb up. This one is enjoyable. I don't think it's great, but I do think it's worth a watch. It was really cool for me. This is a first time watch for me, first time watch for her. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's really cool. Fun concept, and just another cool piece of work from Nicolau for sure.
I definitely had my moments when I had like cracked up laughing out of nowhere, and he'd look at me like, you okay over there? It's like, yeah, I'm just cracking up from this movie, bro.
From this guy, when he said he was a military man and his son was helping him.
It's his grandson.
His grandson, you're right, yeah.
But yeah, it was like nobody, like the boy who cried wolf, basically, and it was mentioned in the movie as well. Like his sister was telling him the story.
Yeah.
I was like, you ever heard this story? I was like, yeah, well, that's you right now. So,
got him.
So I definitely give it a thumbs up for the comedy tidbits in there.
Yeah, it's definitely a comedic horror film for sure. I would classify it as a comedy horror just because I think it does have those comedic elements. I think it was meant to have a more semi-serious undertone to it.
Well, you failed.
But it comes off more comedic now just because I think, it hasn't aged the greatest. But it is a fun film, like I said. I actually want to get this on Blu-ray, and I believe Scream Factory does have it on Blu. So I do need to get my hands on a copy of it. I do not own it on DVD. I believe we caught this one on a YouTube channel, actually.
Yes.
But this one is really cool. Definitely worth checking out. So that is Terrorvision from 1986, directed by Ted Nicolau.
Next we have I wouldn't say great film. The Boogans from 1981, directed by James L. Conway.
And that's shots fired on saying it ain't a great
I'm
film.
sorry.
Bucking off shots at it. I hear that.
I mean, like...
Okay, like, alright. I'm not going to sit here and kind of make excuses for it, but what I see with it and what I feel from it when what I've heard is it's kind of like a horror version of Tremors. And I can see that and feel that a little bit, but the fucking creature sucked. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't want there to be... It's not what I wanted it to be, and not what I thought it was going to be, and just... It was I guess that... Maybe that's what it is. And I knew about the movie for years before I saw it. Like, I really heard a lot about it for years, and I always heard it was cool. And I don't know. I was really let down with this one. I'll be honest. I thought it was a really big letdown. It was a really slow one. The payoff wasn't great. The creature wasn't the greatest looking. I mean, there's a lot to complain about with this one. Yeah, I don't own it, but I'll get it because it's a classic in the sense that it's an older film and it's very popular. And a lot of people like it, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't my cup of tea at all. I'm gonna actually give this one a thumbs down. I'm not going to say 2 thumbs down because it wasn't utter shit. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me at all, and I didn't like the vibe of it. I didn't like the creature. I didn't like the look of the creature. The storyline was meh. It didn't stand out to me. I'm a hater of this one, I guess. You can call me a hater on this one, but I'm not a fan of the Boogans. What's your thoughts on this one?
I'm going to also give it a thumbs down. Mainly because of the creature, like you said, and they showed it for a split second at one point, and it looked like a naked turtle. Like,
yo, you said that when we were watching it. I totally forgot about that. This
like a
motherfucker,
naked turtle.
it does. It looks like a burnt turtle.
Yes.
Like somebody burned, like a deep fried turtle. Like a skinned deep fried turtle crawled out of a crock pot and was like, meow. Llama here, Dad. Motherfucker dead. Like,
no, but it was like, I don't know what it was like supposed to be. Like it had tentacles. Turtles don't have tentacles, but they showed the head, and it was like a giant Pac-Man face, naked turtle thing.
Pac-Man headed turtle face mouth.
It had like a really big mouth, and it was like not like what I expected it to be, and it was just like, why?
Yeah, I get that, and you know what? I do say that, you know, unfortunately the Boogans did not live up to the hype for me, and, you know, like I said, I don't think it was complete utter shit, so I won't give it 2 thumbs down, but it definitely gets a thumbs down from me. It was not an enjoyable film. I mean, watch it if you're curious, but this isn't one that you should go out of your way to watch, because if you don't see it, you're honestly not missing much. Not a fan of this one. Brings us to our next one, Trick or Treats from 1982, directed by Gary Graver. Double G up in the house.
Graver.
So, Big Roast Graver.
Jeez.
So, Gary Graver from 1982 directed this one. This is Trick or Treats. This one I actually did like.
Yeah.
Now, this one is really fun. This one is about this little bastard fucking kid that is being babysat, and he basically tortures his babysitter with these murderous pranks, and, you know, shit ends up getting real, and bad things happen, and he's trying to fucking, you know, do his little pranks and shit, but that kind of goes awry when shit really does start to pop off, and he's not behind it, and shit gets real.
It's on Halloween night, by the way, if you haven't caught that.
Yeah, and now, I like this one a lot. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was creative and brutal and fun. And, you know, not brutal in the sense of, like, hostile brutal.
Yeah.
You know, wink, wink, as we talked about earlier. But I do think that it is definitely a cool flick, and it definitely has some savage parts to it. Highly recommended. I enjoyed the story, and like I said, I think the twists and turns in it are pretty fun. You know, it's one that I'm surprised I didn't get a chance to check out. It was a first time watch for me, as a lot of these were actually on this week's edition of Body Count Reviews. There's quite a few of these that were first time watches for me, and this was yet another one. And I checked this one out particularly because it's one that I heard a lot about, and I'm glad I did check this one out. I definitely enjoyed it, and it's one I got to get for the collection for sure. This one gets a thumbs up for me for sure. I'm not going to give it 2 thumbs up, but I am going to give it a single thumbs up. I did enjoy it, so definitely a dope one indeed. What's your thoughts on this one? Let me know what you're thinking, because me personally, like I said, I feel it, and I think it's a really, really dope one, and I think it has a lot to bring to the table. But what is your thoughts on this?
I wanted to flick that kid in the back of the ear. Like, if that was my kid, it was like, dude, you would have been, like, throat flicked many times.
Chopped.
No, not
Fuck
chopped.
The flick. A flick would be more, you know, a flick could be more damaging perhaps, because you're concentrating.
I'm not doing, like, flicking hard.
pressure.
It's like, go up and, like, when you flick a dog on his nose.
I'm trying to think violently inflicting pain on this kid. He's like 10 years old. That's horrible. Beat this little fucker with flicks in the neck. Flicked him in the neck to death.
But, like, pranks and stuff. It's Halloween night, pranks and whatnot. But, like, when you go too far with it, and you make somebody, like, insane, like, literally, it's, like, not cool, bro.
Yeah, you pushed it to a whole new fucking level, fat kid. He was a little rotund
He's a little meatball.
He was a little meatball. But, yeah, so Trick or Treats for me definitely gets a thumbs up. Enjoyable film. Recommend it. Check that one out if you haven't. It's definitely a fun, you know, I wouldn't even necessarily say slasher, but a fun Halloween horror romp. Definitely check that one out.
Yeah.
Enjoyable for sure.
Society.
From
1989, directed by Brian Usna. You
Beast
did it again. Yeah. He did it again.
So Brian Usna directed the Reanimator sequels that we also reviewed in episode 1 of Horror Headquarters. So That was the first show that we did, and we spoke of the films that he did. And I'm also aware that he worked on Return of the Living Dead 3, which he also directed. And there's other films that he's been a part of that had a very similar vibe. Now, Brian Usna is a very underrated director, in my opinion, and we will one day do a spotlight show on him for sure. But Society from '89 is a fucking wild movie. Now, this is a first-time watch for me, first-time watch for her, and this is one that we were just blown away by the concept, it's not a brutal movie at all. It's a gross movie. It's fucking gross.
It's blobby.
Like, bodies just mutating into each other and fucking orgies of mutated body parts, like, and just, but I think what the idea is people in a rich society being indoctrinated into fucking each other over. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, is everybody in the rich society, which is so true. Yeah. People in business fuck each other over to get ahead, and that's kind of like what it's felt like in society. Like, in order to become part of their society, you had to like fucking be in this orgy. And it was weird because everybody was like connected, and I think that was a metaphor.
But they were killing people.
They were.
It was like sucking their soul, like taking their skin and taking it with theirs, and like.
Yeah, they were molding them into this giant like blob of shit
like that was wax ball.
Yeah, that was basically a multitude of different people construed together to make this construct. And I get the concept in that, but to me, the storyline just felt like it was a reference to a reflection of society and how high-class society portrays itself and how it is portrayed.
Yep.
And I think that is what it was a reflection of and trying to show. And I think that was a really cool kind of segue to do that. And I think using this kind of genius for that. But I really do like that film. I think Society is dope. I want to get my hands on it. I do know there was a recent release of it. I'm not sure which company did it. Maybe somebody can comment, let us know which company did that Society release, because I'd like to get my hands on it. I do not own the film. There's another one we caught on YouTube, and it is definitely enjoyable. You can find this on YouTube. Matter of fact, anytime that I mention that a film is on YouTube, you can find it if you just look up that movie name in full movie. You can find them. So if you want to check it out before you get it, that is a way to stream it before you actually buy it. And that's what I've been doing. I've been checking these out. Now, I'm going to buy these either way. Even if I don't like a film, I'll still buy it just because I'm a collector and I'm an elitist. Not an elitist, completionist. An elitist is a fucking dick, which I am not an elitist. I am not one of them fucking snobby. Oh, fuck this film. I am not happy with this director's way of comprehending the situation and displaying it. This director of photography is a piece of shit with bad angling. This actor is horrible. There's people that are super snobby like that, and I'm like, I can't get down like that. Like on every film, like people are super critical. As soon as
they look up, it's like third punch right
Yeah,
there.
I mean, like, look at how many films we talk about and review on this show, and there's not a ton of them that I fucking throw under the bus, because honestly, I enjoy a lot of horror films regardless. Like, it takes a lot for me to shit on a movie, so I just don't do it often. So, but like I was saying, Society is really dope. I enjoyed this one a lot. Definitely one to check out. But we're going to keep it moving into the next film, which is a newer one that I really fucking like, so I'm going to be happy to talk about this. And that is The Void from 2016, directed by Jeremy Gillespie and Steven Kostanski. Now, this is one that I really thought was cool and original and unique. It had these awesome 80s vibes, these awesome ties to Lovecraftian lore, and I love films that do that have that kind of Cthulhu lore and that feel to it and that Lovecraft vibe to it, and it definitely had that going for it. The mutations kind of reminded me of The Thing and gave me that vibe as well, that 80s Carpenter vibe. You know, this one is a straight up ode to the 80s 100%. The Void is awesome. It has this really unique, weird story of this strange cult and this fucked up backstory in this town of what's happened. And I mean, it really brings you in and reels you in for this story. And I highly enjoyed this one. What did you think of The Void?
It was confusing at first. I mean, if you remember, like, it was kind of like zigzagging on and off topic, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of colliding stories with different characters in the beginning, for sure.
And then once it all started coming together at the end, it was like Oh, like that's what's going on.
Yeah,
okay.
there's definitely a few moments in the movie, and they
Yeah.
do definitely occur near the ending when you do start to piece things together, and they do
like a
show.
puzzle.
Yeah, they do show a little bit more of the backstory of the main character and the villain and kind of the creation of everything and the ending. If you remember, they were kind of left in that void, and I thought that's kind of what I thought in the beginning. Like when I thought the void, the film, that's kind of what I had, this barren wasteland in my head. That's what I was thinking.
I was imagining like a white space.
Yeah.
Like, no time, like the void.
Yeah,
nothing
there's
going on.
everybody's gonna think of it differently, and but the way the film depicted it almost is closer to what I had in my mind, which was this just barren wasteland of nothing with just this voided land, and that's kind of the feel that you got with it. It's a little bit more dark and demonic than that, but that's kind of the most relatable natural element to put it to, is like a kind of desert kind of vibe. But I like this one, so yeah, The Void is going to get 2 thumbs up for me, actually. I thought this was really innovative. I thought it had a brilliant soundtrack. I really love the cult, the look of them. I think the twist on it is great. The references are aplenty in this, especially to 80s horror culture. And this one is just really enjoyable. It is on Netflix, or was on Netflix. I think it is still streaming on Netflix, and that's where we caught it. This one was just definitely very cool. So 2 thumbs up for me on this one. How about you? You thumbs up in this one?
I'm just gonna give it 1 thumbs up. Like I liked it, but like I said,
Hater.
Shut up. You're a hater. Everybody's a hater if you're a hater. Anyway. But yeah, 1 thumbs up, so yeah. Guess, I don't know.
Nothing you want to add on to this one?
No, like I said, like my mind, it was just mind boggling. It was confusing, like I said. So.
I can see that. There's definitely I think the ending more so than anything is what really kind of leaves it open to interpretation. And I know a lot of movies do that and use that mechanic, like let's leave it up to the audience to figure it out. But I feel like we discussed with the movie Cube, we're not you and me aren't huge fans of that. I am a fan to an extent.
I like mind-boggling stuff, but when it's like making no sense in a way until the
very last minute, until the very end. Yeah, I can get that too. And sometimes I'm the same way, but I know you and me both share that sentiment, and we're not huge fans of the leading things astray and then last minute kind of bringing it together. Not always. It depends on how it's done and the movie itself, but sometimes that gets overused in Hollywood and it just becomes a boring mechanic.
Yeah.
So it really depends. But yeah, we definitely enjoyed The Void. So that's 3 thumbs up. 3 thumbs up total from us. We enjoyed this one. I thought it was fantastic. She thought it was alright. But this is definitely one you're going to have to check out. It is on Netflix. I highly recommend it personally. So check that one out. And that's going to go ahead and bring us into our next one, which is
Planet Terror from 2007, directed by Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, so Robert Rodriguez did Planet Terror in 2007, and then you had the other part of it, which I believe was, I can't remember, I think Quentin Tarantino did the other part, which was Death Proof. Now, Death Proof was also very cool, but Planet Terror is the one that we watched. Planet Terror is basically a zombie / infection type flick, and it definitely does what it needs to do, which is send that vibe home, and definitely has those 70 and 80 vibes 100% scattered throughout. You got a great cast with Brolin and Rose McGowan, and you've got Bruce Willis in this, and just a phenomenal cast, like a really solid cast in the film. And, I enjoyed this one. I think that Planet Terror is, a solid film. I think it really does its job well. And, I like the effects in it. I think that it has such a great Grindhouse feel to it. And that's what it is. It's part of the Grindhouse Pictures double feature. It's a Grindhouse double feature. Like I said, with Planet Terror being one of them and Death Proof being the other. Now, both of these films have that 70s kind of feel and filter over top of everything as well, which also helps add to the grit and the edge of the films. So that is something that I appreciate about both of them, and something that always lured me in to liking them films, is that kind of gritty, raw feel, which they 100% have going for both of them. So, Yeah, Planet Terror is definitely an awesome one to check out. If you haven't seen that one, I personally highly recommend it. What is your thoughts on Planet Terror?
Well, I'm gonna rate it first. I'll give it like 2 thumbs up because, like, during the movie, you were telling me that there's some like odes to like Evil Dead and whatnot. Like when she gets the machine gun on her leg, like after losing her leg.
I feel that's definitely an ode to Evil Dead because of the chainsaw to hand replacement. That's a machine gun to leg replacement. Definitely feels like it was an ode to Evil Dead to me.
Because there's that, and then the way like she used it was like there was some moment where they made it like slow motion, and it was like cool as fuck.
Yeah, and I can see you giving 2 thumbs up to this for the fact that it has female empowerment in it. You know what I mean? When you're seeing a woman lose her leg and be like, well, fuck it, now it's a machine gun and I'm slaying hundreds of zombies with it, fuck off. Like, that is, I mean, pretty kick-ass. So, it's definitely female with you know, stuff like that in there. So, I could see why you would relate to that and enjoy that and you know, double thumbs up that one. For me, I'm going to go ahead and give 2 thumbs up to this one because I think it deserves. I think it is a really dope flick, and I just love the filters on it. I love the music in it. Even the scoring is great. I think that the practical effects work really well in it, and I just, like I said, I'm a fan of Robert Rodriguez. I think he makes great films, and I think this is no different. So yeah, definitely an enjoyable one, and highly recommend it with Planet Terror. Now, moving into the last film of our body count reviews is one that I was really excited to get my hands on. This is an independent film directed by Christopher Bickle, The Theta Girl from 2017. Now, this one has a really original storyline, and it's really a lot of fun, honestly. The practical effects are solid in it. The acting is pretty solid, especially for an independent film. There's a few parts that are a little bit questionable, but for the most part, I think it has a really solid cast in it, and there's nobody in it that I've seen before personally, or maybe I have, but I can't put my finger on what I've seen him in. But I thought that this one was really fucking cool. I really did enjoy this one. I was lucky enough to get a digital screener of this one early from the director himself, which I was very grateful for. Check out the film, and I'll be honest, it's way better than what I expected because he told me that he did it on a $14,000 budget, and I was expecting much less. You know what I mean? And I would have been happy with much less because this way overshot my expectations of what I was thinking a $14,000 film would look like. And I give him credit; it's phenomenal. I think that they did great work with the credit sequences. I think they did great work with the sound tracking for it. I think that the acting and the directing are solid in it. Yep. The storyline is very cool. I love the theta drug. I love the concept of having this idol that they kind of see, this godlike beast, not beast, but
they call it an entity. An entity,
yeah, the entity, this thing that they keep seeing, and just the way that thing looks and the way it talks with like the chirpy, bird kind of voice. Yeah, I think it's just really fucking cool, and this film delivered so much more than I thought it would. It really fucking did, and especially for an independent film. I mean, if you wouldn't have told me this was an independent film, you know what I mean, and I would have just seen it, I would have liked it still.
Yeah.
I think it would have been dope still because it's very, and I'm going to compare it to another film that has a very similar vibe that I think definitely has a very similar feel to me, and it's one of my favorite films, and that's what made me like this movie even more, is it's very reminiscent of Hobo with a Shotgun, which is another kind of grindhousey kind of release that has a very similar themed vibe that, you know what I mean, like more or less the same vibe than a theme. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not really the same story or anything, but the vibes of those films and the soundtracks and the lighting and the looks of them are very similar, and I love that look, that 70s grittiness, because it's very hard to be captured. That 70s and 80s grit. And this film does it, and it does it in a really good way. So I'm going to give 2 thumbs up to Theta Girl. The Theta Girl, this one is definitely enjoyable. Highly recommend it. I'm not sure the outlets that this one is available on right now. I'll get in contact with Mr. Bickle himself and find that out, and I will share it out in our Facebook group. So make sure that you're following in the group to get that information. What is your thoughts on this one, our final film of the body count reviews for this week, The Theta Girl from 2017, directed by Mr. Christopher Bickle?
It had me cringing, honestly. Like,
Cringes.
The kills, it was like the way they were done. Like, the thought of having somebody spread your, like, insides just everywhere, and it's like...
Literally souffling your flesh and
I'm like,
spreading your
my
insides
stomach.
out.
Yeah, so there's that. And then the drug itself, it's like, I'm not a partier, but I don't think I've ever taken anything like that. That's pretty crazy.
That shit is next level. It's like an enhanced LSD with this weird kind of effect where everyone that takes it sees the same thing or hallucinates the same entity. And I think that's a cool concept in itself. And for me, was something that really set this movie out to be pretty original. You know what I mean? The storyline of it is very original and very cool. Cool indeed. So, like I said, I'm giving 2 thumbs up to this one. What is your thoughts?
I'm gonna give 2 thumbs up as well. So
that's 4 thumbs up. We both agree that this one is a solid release. Very pleased to check out the screener on this one, and I look forward to checking out more work from Mr. Bickle as well. I might have insider news that pots are stirring.
Oh.
Not gonna say any more than that. That's all you get. Hope you like what you see. Hope you like what you see. Run, rabbit.
You're excessive.
Run, rabbit. Shout out to my dude Bill Mosley, who's a fantastic dude, by the way. Met him at 2 Konskis, and he was dope both times. So that wraps up our body count reviews for this week. We went over 7 dope films. That was TerrorVision from 1986, directed by Ted Nicolau, and
The Boogans from 1981, directed by James L. Conway.
Trick or Treats from 1982, directed by Gary Graver.
Society from 1989, directed by Brian Usna.
The Void from 2016, directed by Jeremy Gillespie and Stephen Kostansky. Gillespie.
Planet Terror from 2007, directed by Robert Rodriguez.
And of course, The Theta Girl from 2017, directed by Christopher Bickle.
Woo!
So all these films were very dope, all in all, with the exception of Boogans. But hey, you gotta have a dud once in a while, and we don't discriminate. Even if we don't like the movie, we will talk about it and fucking give our negative thoughts about it.
We're not movists.
You movist? That's some weird shit.
I don't know.
But that about wraps up this segment of Body Count Reviews. We still have our poll of the week up ahead and our final chapter, so don't go nowhere. We're going to be blasting you with that in just a second. We'll return in just a moment.
Boom.
Wake up, kiddies. There's no time to sleep.
It's time for the poll of the week.
So, it's your poll of the week, people. We have the results from last week's episode 5, the Critters franchise. If you missed it, you suck. But you can find it on YouTube, so whatever. Which immortal killer wins in a Royal Rumble? We had Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, Tall Man, Candyman, and Victor Crowley. So, 13 votes for Jason Voorhees. And I thought that was funny because of Friday the 13th, and he had 13 votes.
13 on 13 action.
So, whoever that 13th vote was, good job.
Good shit.
5 votes for Freddy Krueger and Pinhead. Me, personally, I voted for Pinhead because of, like, the little random hooks flying out of nowhere, and, like, he doesn't even have to lay a hand on you, bro.
So, Pinhead and Freddy Krueger both got 5 votes apiece.
Yep. 2 votes for the Tall Man. I don't know who that is.
The Tall Man is from Phantasm.
Oh.
Ah, the Tall Man. Yes.
Okay, you can delete that.
I'm not deleting that.
You're a dick.
I love you.
Okay. I love you. 1 vote. Oh, no. 2 votes for Victor Crowley as well. We had, like, a last minute, like, change
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever.
another voter came in. Yep.
And then 1 vote for Candyman. So,
Yeah. So Crowley had 2, Candyman had 1. So everybody had gotten votes in this,
which is awesome. So.
Yeah, which is great. But I think it's crazy that Pinhead didn't get more votes, because Pinhead and Voorhees were neck and neck in the beginning. I was surprised to see him tied up with Kruger but not go any farther. So interesting to see that, but very cool to see everybody voting in the polls. I appreciate you all getting your votes in. Make sure you vote in next week's poll.
Your vote counts.
That's right. So what is the poll for this week? Let them know.
What is the worst way to die in a horror movie?
Ooh, we getting brutal.
Imagine yourself in a horror movie.
Imagine.
What's the most horrible way you could die? Drowning, burning, impalement, decapitation, strangulation, and amputation. We'll wrap it up in here.
That is pretty fucking savage. So you want the drowning, the burning, impalement, decapitation, and strangulation, and amputation. Spit a hot 16 on that shit. So, yeah, there's 6 brutal ways to be killed.
And personally, I wouldn't want anything to happen.
That's right. Why would you?
If anything, the worst way to die is...
Don't tell them. Because we got to... Don't tell them, because we have to wait for next week.
Oh.
We got to vote in that shit, though. So make sure you get your votes in this week. You got your poll of the week question. Our fans and listeners out there, our loyal, strong fan base, our hardhead quarterheads. That's some crazy shit. Our George Washingtons, you know what I'm saying? Huh? But everybody out there that is listening to the show, please make sure that you get your votes in for this poll of the week. Every week we will be airing our live results on the show, so your vote counts. You are part of the show when you are voting, and we appreciate that shit, don't we?
Yes.
Don't we, Ida?
Yes.
You better call me Vincent.
Oh, God.
You better call me Vincent. Where's my money? No.
No.
Vincent's running the farm, and he wants his money.
Anyway.
So that about wraps up this poll of the week. That brings us to the end of our show, which is one of our final parts, our favorite parts. This is the final chapter. So this is the wrap up of the show and the ending. We've gone over everything we wanted to talk about tonight. We brought you the bone-breaking news talking about Quentin Tarantino's new Manson film, Stranger Things Season 3 dropping, the Friday the 13th Blu-ray box set coming, and the new Eli Roth film, Haunt, and announced their cast. We also went over the Vital Organs discussion and talked about Hostel 1, 2, and 3. We gave you our Netflix best pick with The Babysitter. And we went over our Pick Your Poison with I Know What You Did Last Summer versus Scream. We hit the body count reviews with Terrorvision, The Boogans, Trick or Treat, Society, The Void, Planet Terror, and The Theta Girl. We also went into the poll of the week and the results from last week from episode 5. And now that brings you here to our final chapter. And we want to thank you once again for sitting here, spending 2 hours with us, tuning in and listening to yet another episode of Horror Headquarters. Make sure you tune in next week for episode 7. Can't believe we're already at the 7th episode, where we have yet another trilogy. That's what we're going to tell you. You get no more information than that yet.
Hush, hush.
Another trilogy is coming, so make sure you tune in next week for episode 7. We already have it planned. In fact, we have plans for all the way up to episode 20. So we know what we're doing all the way up until then. We have some really cool specials coming up. You know Christmas is coming, so you can expect to see some holiday spirit being shed soon. And the end of the year is coming, and we have something very special, very, very special planned for you guys for the end of the year. So we hope you keep tuning into our episodes. We're going to be trying to bring the show to iTunes soon. Right now, we're currently only streaming ourselves on YouTube. So we're going to try to take that next level and bring our stuff to iTunes. If you guys think that's a good idea, comment on the video and let us know. Until next week, this has been Horror Headquarters. I've been your host, Klive Kraven, with my lovely co-host.
It has been Naya, man.
And we are just dying to talk horror.
Boom.